As Kat said, I'm TJ Holsen, a board certified music therapist. Actually, all pretty newly minted music therapist. I've come to this later in my career. You can kind of see that I'm not a youngster. I've got a previous master's degree in adult education, and I've had a long career in community-based health and human services and adult education, mainly in nonprofit settings, in the Chicago area and here in Madison. And I'm a lifelong musician. I fronted a couple bands in Chicago over the years, and I'll just tell you quickly the story about how I came into music therapy. My mother was This was several years ago. My mother was dying, and in her final days, she was pretty much unresponsive, except when I sang with her or started singing, and she would start singing along, much to my surprise. Although I knew the magic of music, I suppose I wasn't that surprised, but it was still pretty significant that she was singing along and really unable to communicate in any other way. And funny enough, I'd get through a song. This was Christmas time, so it was Christmas carols, which she loved. And I'd get to the end of the song and I'd stop thinking, well, she's tired. She wants to rest. And I'd stop. And a few moments later of silence, she'd start singing again. So, of course, I had to join in and sing again. So singing White Christmas was the last kind of interactive, communicative thing she did before dying. And so this just got my wheels turning internally. Again, I've been a musician my whole life. But it's when I thought, music therapy could be a cool way for me to kind of finish my career and use music in a way, not just to kind of perform, which was what I was used to, kind of, here, let me just kind of do music for you. I thought, what a cool way to use music as a service with and engage with people. So that's how I got into it. So about 2.5 years ago, I started the master's program at Augsburg University and just finished that up, all except for my thesis, which I hope to get done soon. But I sat for my boards about a month ago and passed those. So I'm a board certified, and I'm now starting my private practice here. I'm here in Madison on the west side is where I live. So before going further, we're talking about music therapy. So let's have some music. So I'm going to share my screen with some lyrics. But before I do, please mute your microphone. Otherwise, on Zoom, we'll have a cacophony of of sound. So mute, sing along if you know the song, which I just looking at everybody here, not to judge by faces, but I think I'm in the right. I think this will be a song most of you know. We'll see if Kat does. And sing along, and also do some movement. I mean, anything. Rock back and forth, nod your head, tap your feet, clap, tap your hands on your thighs or your knees, whatever you can do, whatever feels good. And St. Patrick's Day is coming up, isn't it, on this weekend? So I thought we would start with a St. Patty's Day kind of related song, right? All right, here we go. Sing along with me. I'm looking over a four-leaf clover that I overlooked before. One leaf is sunshine, the second is rain. Third is the roses that grow in the lane. No need explaining. One remaining is somebody I adore. I'm looking over a four-leaf clover that I overlooked before. All right, now that you're familiar with it, it's a short one. Let's do it again. I'm looking over a four-leaf clover that I overlooked before. One leaf is sunshine, the second is rain. Third is the roses that grow in the lane. No need explaining. One remaining is somebody I adore. I'm looking over a four-leaf clover that I overlooked before. All right. Now, if we were in music therapy together, I'd ask you all what associations or memories you might have of that song. Raise your hand if you've ever found a four-leaf clover in your life. I never have. Can you remember where and when? Just nod your head yes or no. Yeah? All right, so those are the kinds of things, reminiscence, etc., that might be done with a song in music therapy. So let's just start. Let's see if I can advance my slides here. All right, let's start by just giving a definition of music therapy. It's the clinical and evidence-based use of music and its elements to accomplish individualized goals within a therapeutic relationship by a credentialed professional. And it can be used to address social emotional needs, communication needs and issues, cognition, movement and motor function, spirituality, and other personal goals. And most music therapists music therapists can practice from a variety of theoretical frameworks, but I would say most are client-centered and resource-oriented, meaning that music therapy experiences are created with the client, in partnership with the client, based on individual needs, strengths, attributes, and preferences. And the resource-oriented means the resources within us, the resources within each of us, within the clients. So that's where the individual strengths and attributes comes in. So oftentimes there's kind of a confusion between, you hear terms like music medicine, music as medicine, maybe even therapeutic music, and those are not interchangeable. There's a distinction. They're not interchangeable. Those terms aren't interchangeable with music therapy. So music medicine or music as medicine might be listening to pre-recorded music or building a playlist. This chart here says it's provided by healthcare professionals, but it could be self-administered. You can self-administer music as medicine, right? And there's other things, music-based interventions that can happen with music that are health promoting and might even be said to be therapeutic. But in music therapy, it's a therapeutic process with a board certified music therapist who's creating a treatment plan with you, with the client, and then implementing that treatment plan and assessing and evaluating and making adjustments as you go through. So the therapeutic relationship is key. So you might even kind of compare this to let's say talk therapy. So you can talk to your friend or your loved one, and it can be super helpful. You can even call it therapeutic, right? But there's a distinction between that and talk therapy with a board certified or licensed counselor or psychologist. So it's the same kind of who's got an intentional treatment plan, evidence-based, based on the research, et cetera. So that's kind of the same kind of situation. The distinction between, let's say, music as medicine and music therapy. These couple quotes I liked, and I'll just quick read them to you. Music therapists are well equipped to provide care for people with neurodegenerative diseases, adapting interventions to the changing conditions and needs of each client. while developing and maintaining a trusting therapeutic relationship. That's one author's take. In music therapy with clients who have neurological challenges, music therapists find ways to adapt their approaches to leverage music's capacity to align with clients' individual strengths and goals. Again, the resource-oriented, client-oriented. What's in common here, both of them talking about working with clients that have neurological challenges, is the adapting, the kind of in the moment, in real time, adapting interventions and musical experiences to the needs of the client. So that's what music therapists are good at, right? Assessing in the moment, assessing also long-term, and then making adjustments and tailoring the music therapy experience to the needs of their clients. So what that means is that a client need not have any music skills or experience, because that's the music therapist's job, right? Is to make the music accessible and to kind of tap into the rich capabilities of music, and adapt those experiences to the client. So the client, a lot of people think I can't do music therapy because I'm not a musician, or I don't have any skills or experience with music. Well, it's not necessary. In fact, sometimes those things get in the way, right? So if people kind of come fresh into music therapy with not too much music training, that can be beneficial, in fact. So you might think that science has identified an area of the brain where music kind of engages with the brain. Well, it's not true. There's not one area. In fact, that's the finding of science in brain science, is that music taps into multiple networks of the brain. And these two quotes kind of talk about the fact the first one, music stimulates global brain activation. Keyword there is global, and shares processing components with other functions, such as those involved in language, movement, reasoning, and experience and emotions. The second quote here, neurologically, music is intrinsically rewarding and motivating, activating neural networks throughout the brain. So again, the key point here is that music is engaging all different areas of the brain, which seems to correlate to some of the benefits, the kind of the magic that happens with music. So again, music is engaging multiple networks, multiple regions in the brain, located in both hemispheres of the brain. And those parts of the brain that music is engaging are shared with some of the other functions involved with language, movement, reasoning, emotions, etc. So it's thought that, I mean, there's a lot still to learn about brain science and music and how music engages with the brain, but it's thought that the fact that music is so globally interacting with the brain and touching the same areas of the brain that are involved in all these different functions you see on the screen, that might account for the ability of music and music therapy to kind of address a plethora of different functions and needs. So just as kind of the brain is activated in a variety of ways, music itself is multi-layered and really kind of complex and multidimensional. So here in this chart, music is in the middle in the green there, talking about the structures and patterns and expressive qualities of music. Well, what's involved in that? Music has meter, it has rhythm, melody, timbre, pitch, dynamics, harmony, and other components. So all these different things are happening in music at the same time. So again, that might be associated with why music is so powerful. It's got all these rich kind of multi-layered components to it. By the way, stop me or raise your hand if you have any questions anytime. So there's many different specialties in music therapy, but for our discussion today, I think the one I wanted to highlight was neurologic music therapy, NMT. I've had some some coursework in this, but there's music therapists can go through extensive additional training in NMT, and I hope to do that soon. Neurologic music therapy is evidence-based clinical treatment system that is driven by advances in neuroscience and the understanding of the perception, production, and performance of music, and how music can influence and change non-musical brain and behavior function. It's defined as the therapeutic application of music to cognitive, affective, sensory, language, and motor dysfunction due to neurologic issues. And NMT is used extensively with clients that have suffered stroke, traumatic brain injury, Parkinson's, ALS, etc. And you'll often find neurologic music therapists working in clinics that are part of a multidisciplinary team, maybe with physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, etc. And if you look on, there's videos on YouTube of stroke, people that have suffered stroke, for example, and are, unable to exercise gait control as they're walking, and the music therapist will start a rhythm and start some music, and the client is able to put one foot in front of the other literally within moments of having the music, of hearing the music. So it's an amazing kind of specialized field in music therapy, neurologic music therapy. So I'm not going to get too heavy into research, but some of you might be interested. Lots and lots of research in music therapy. It's an evidence-based practice. I suppose I should have said to begin with that music therapy is used from prenatal, believe it or not, prenatal and infants all the way through elder care in multiple different populations, mental health, developmental disabilities, neurologic disorders, etc. So it's a really wide-ranging field of practice and lots of research out there. Just quickly, as I was kind of getting ready for our discussion today, I came across a newer kind of research survey that found 26 different articles just in 5 years between 2015 and 2020 that were specific to music therapy with Parkinson's clients, addressing motor, social, communication, emotional, and cognition, and finding significant benefits of music therapy with those clients. Numerous studies demonstrating benefits of music therapy, NMT, and neurologic disorders in general. Not a lot yet on ALS. There are a couple, and I'll go into one in a minute. But also lots and lots of research on music therapy in palliative care and hospice. And many music therapists specialize in that field of work too. In fact, I had to complete over 1,200 hours of clinical field work before sitting for my boards, and about half that time was working in palliative care and hospice care. So one kind of recent study coming out of Russia focused on, this was a feasibility study to look at music therapy specifically with ALS. This may be the only one that was looking at music therapy with early to mid-stage people living with ALS. This was in 2022. It had a biomedical focus. So the outcomes they were looking for were related to respiratory function, so breathing, and what they called bulbar function, which is swallowing and the ability to productively cough, etc. So this was a feasibility study. So they were looking at, is it even feasible to do this research? Because with ALS, as you all know, too vigorous exercise can be detrimental. So they wanted to be really careful that the interventions that they were doing with these participants was not going to be detrimental and was going to be safe, and that the participants would be able to hang in there for the duration of this study. It was twice weekly, hour-long sessions for 6 weeks with individual exercise sets for each of the participants, but they all looked at what you see here in the fourth bullet, body alignment. So they would spend a few minutes making sure the participants were kind of sitting and aligned productively. They would work on a couple minutes of breathing exercises. This was all with music. Self massage and stretching of muscles in the head, neck, face, tongue, jaw, under the chin and larynx. Then they would do some soft palate. Then they would start making sounds to music again. Soft palate exercise, and then working on phonemes, consonants, and vowels. Exercising, getting the vocal cords relaxed and exercised. This all through the hour, and then spent the last part of the session singing preferred music. This in the picture in the lower left here is a photo of the actual study with the music therapist there on the right. They measured all kinds of things, as you can imagine, and they found, what I found fascinating was they found that the bulbar, swallowing, and respiratory functions that they were measuring showed not only that they did not decline over time, but in many cases actually improved, or they were able to reverse the decline, reverse the loss, gain back some of the loss. So really significant findings. And again, this was a feasibility study. So the idea is that now that they've shown the feasibility, that they'll go on and do a full-blown study with hopefully many more participants to really try to get some statistical significance behind this. And then the other part of the thing they pointed out with this study is that as opposed to physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech therapy, use of music seemed to significantly improve motivation, right? This was some hard work that these participants were engaging in. So they really felt the use of music and rhythm really helped kind of to motivate people. And they again pointed out what we already said about music therapy, that the relationship between client and therapist was of primary importance. So the interpersonal aspect, not just the, kind of the protocols they were going through or the activities they were participating in, but the person-to-person aspect was a huge component of the success. So pretty neat. This is from so I don't know if you can see, it's a little bit small, but at the bottom of this slide, alsmusictherapy.org is the website that was developed by the team that did this research I just talked about in Russia. And it's a neat website. You might want to take a look. It's even got some specific music playlists that they've put together for, I think, for relaxation and things like that. So you might want to check that out if you get a chance. alsmusictherapy.org. So it's specific to music therapy and ALS. And here they're listing potentially some of the benefits of music therapy, again, specific to people living with ALS: relaxation and sleep facilitation, verbal and nonverbal self-expression and communication, mood enhancement, addressing emotions, giving that energy boost and motivation that we just talked about, helping with moderate physical exercise, pain management, addressing isolation, providing opportunities for socialization, support for adjusting to the disease, enhancing family dynamics, community building, and of course, those kind of motor functions that they were measuring, the support for breathing, speech, swallowing, and cough. Saying some of those same things, but looking at it a little bit differently, this author looked at music therapy and ALS and neurologic issues and kind of categorized the three, kind of thought about music therapy in three different domains. So helping with function. So again, helping to maintain and slow the decline of speech and motor function, or possibly even reverse the decline, like that one study showed. Social emotional domain, And here what's interesting is that for people that are in the nonverbal phase, music can serve as almost like a second language, a tonal, this author called it a tonal language, allowing for communication and emotional response through music. And what this author called compensatory kind of areas. So again, looking at music therapy as a way to compensate for the losses and develop strategies to compensate for those losses and help retain their social roles. Okay, so all that said, you might be wondering, well, what does it look like? Like what actually happens? Well, there are, I don't know if it's an infinite amount, but there's easily hundreds and hundreds of different things in different domains that music therapists and their clients might do together. But some of them, here's a short list in very general, like under each of these, you could break down dozens of different kind of specific activities, procedures, and experiences. But specifically with an ALS client, they and the music therapist might listen to live and recorded music for relaxation, live and or recorded, I should say, discussing and reminiscing with live and recorded favorite music, or preferred music is the term in music therapy oftentimes, singing songs, playing simple music instruments along with familiar songs or in improvisational style, songwriting, many different ways to make songwriting an easy and accessible experience, really powerful. Gentle exercise to music, vocal and breathing exercises, creating music playlists together for relaxation, sleep, movement, and energy boosts. So things that the client can use on their own, not just within the music therapy session. Music supported visualization. So this is something like guided meditation. Drawing or doing other art to music is a common thing to do. Creating music projects, so recordings of songs, recordings of original songs, etc. Creating song autobiographies. So this might be putting together a playlist of songs that kind of take me through my life, starting with my childhood, kind of, and songs that represent different phases of my life or different things that happened during my life, those kinds of things. So this is just a short list, just an example of some of the things that might happen in a music therapy session or in a music therapy treatment plan that goes over a course of months or longer. All right. Well, I was guessing that you wanted some ideas of what you might do on your own if you're not working with a music therapist. Well, some things that I would say just to consider right off the bat is, again, you do not have to be a good singer or have musical talent to either do these things yourself, or if you're a caregiver for someone living with ALS, you don't have to be a musician. Think about what the sweet spot is for yourself or for the person you're working with. Research has shown that for all of us, the most powerful music, the stuff that we connect to the most, is the music that we listen to between the ages of 14 and 24 years old. Now, that doesn't mean to say that after 24 years old, you can't discover new music and that isn't meaningful. Of course it is. But the music that tends to be the most powerful people is the music that they listen to between the ages of 14 and 24 years old. Probably not surprising to you, because I know for me, when people ask me what's my favorite music, if I'm forced to do that, it tends to be the music that I kind of, as a teenager or a young, in my young 20s, that was the music, right? Think about what, nowadays with the technology we have music at our finger. Most of us have music at our fingertips. Think about what you have with regard to streaming music services. Do you have still a collection of CDs or cassette tapes or albums? I don't know if anyone has 8-track tapes laying around anymore. And videos on the internet, YouTube, you can find just about any song sung by probably the people that made them famous, etc. And you can find songs oftentimes on the internet that have kind of the lyrics streaming across the screen, at the same time as the music playing. And not to over stress this point, you don't have to have like the most expensive music equipment, but volume and quality does play a role. So try to think about, what do you have that can play music if you're listening to pre-recorded music that that has at least decent quality. Think about CD players. You can play music, of course, through your TV. Bluetooth speakers, earbuds, and headphones now are really good. So just something to just think about those things. What can you do? What kind of experiences can you have? Well, you can reminisce. Talk about the song, talk about the artist, the lyrics, the life memories or associations with that song or with that music. Sing, karaoke, sing-alongs, right? Simple rhythm with songs. You can get some nice, cheap instruments that are easy to, you don't have to be a musician to play a shaker, right? And even if you can't grip, or you could attach a shaker with a wristband or a watch. Movement, things like scarf dancing. You don't have to get up and waltz across the floor. You can sit in a chair or even be reclining or laying and do a little movement with a little dancing with your arms and with scarves. There's things that can attach to your foot just for tapping your foot, or can be put around the hand if the grip isn't enough, and still get some rhythm. So there's all kinds of stuff you can find in music stores or online as far as just simple rhythmic instruments can be really, really helpful. Gentle movement we talked about, with or without the rhythm instruments. Do things like name that tune, play a short beginning of a song, and what was that song, or who was the artist, etc. Lyric snippets. This is something I do with some of my clients. So if I said something like 5'2", what would your next words be? Somebody unmute and tell me. 5'2".
Eyes of blue.
You got it. And oh, what those
blue eyes can do.
Has anybody seen
My Gal?
You got it. So just a familiar song, right? Say the first part of the lyrics and fill in the blank. Can be really fun. That's what I call lyric snippets. There might be another word for that. You can find online all kinds of things for playing music bingo or music trivia, etc. It can be really great. Make or find, there's already existing lots and lots of playlists out there for relaxation, guided meditation, massage, aromatherapy, meaning you light a candle that smells good or use some of those smelly oils. So make make your own playlist, or find a playlist that you like that's already created. So just some ideas of things that you could fill hours of enjoyable time with using music yourself, and you don't have to be a music therapist, and you don't have to be a musician, right? And you might come up with other ideas. These are just some kind of starter ideas. Don't forget caregivers, or if you yourself are a caregiver, consider using music for your own self-care and respite in any of those ways we just mentioned, or other ways. But pay attention to yourself if you're a caregiver, and use music think about using music for your benefit in that regard as well. Just so you don't think I made all of this up, here's the references I used. And here is, now I want to end with another song and also answer any questions. But there's some of my information if you'd like to reach out and contact me. And if you'll all mute yourselves again, if you unmute it, let's sing another song together. This is one I think you'll know. I was kind of thinking, well, boy, it's like, what's going to be 70 degrees outside today. It feels like spring. So here's a song that's about a flower. So it's kind of spring-like. Edelweiss. Oh, anyone know what musical and movie Edelweiss is from? I bet you all do. It's The Sound of Music. So just interestingly, this was not a traditional Austrian or German song. People in Austria and Germany had never heard this song before Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote it in 1965. So though it sounds traditional, like a traditional folk song, it's not. And I think I read that this was the last song that Rodgers and Hammerstein actually wrote together. So so let's sing Edelweiss, sing along and move a little bit. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small and white, clean and bright. You look happy to me. Blossom of snow, may you and grow, bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my land forever. Let's do that second verse. Blossom of snow, may you and grow, bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland forever. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Hopefully that was helpful. Give you a little idea about what music therapy is and how people living with ALS might benefit from music therapy and music in general. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions if there are any. Do we have time, Kat?
Oh, absolutely. That was so great, TJ. Thank you so much. It was great to hear all of the background and then to hear kind of what it might look like and even how you can just adapt it yourself. I think that was awesome. I think one of the pieces, I'm going to ask one question and then I'm going to turn it over to other people too, because I know that there will be a couple too. But one of the pieces I want to ask about is like, how does one typically get involved with a music therapist? How do they reach out to you, or is that something, well, it kind of works? Okay.
Yep, people, it's, referrals, word of mouth. There is there's the Wisconsin Music Therapy Registry, which is Wisconsin specific. So I think you can even look by geography and do a search for music therapists that way. And, places like the aging ADRC may have a list of music therapists that are working with, I think those are specific to each county, I believe, but they might have, that might be a place to start as well.
Fantastic. What other questions do people have?
Well, I guess I can chime in.
Right.
Hi, TJ. Thank you so much for all that
Sure.
information. It was wonderful. It brought back memories of my dad in hospice and how much his music therapist did for him. And Christmas before my mother-in-law passed away, she had a severe stroke and could not speak and was paralyzed on her right side. But I played her some Christmas music on my guitar, and she picked up. We gave her a shaker, and she could shake in perfect rhythm. And more than that, she could hum. Even though she couldn't speak, she hummed these Christmas carols, and it was just a wonderful thing. So thank you for that information and for those evoking those memories. That was most thankful for that. What I wanted to ask is how. So I go to the ALS clinic at UW Hospital here in Madison. How does a clinic like the ALS clinic incorporate music therapy into their specialists? I see all kinds of specialists when I go in. For me, it's every 6 months, and I see occupational therapists, physical therapists, and so on. And I'm not suggesting that everybody would want this, but maybe how would you become, not you personally, but a musical therapist, become part of that team, so that would be another way of kind of talking about music. Even though you may not be in therapy for it, there may be opportunities to share what you shared with us about, creating your own song list or playing games with music, snippets and trivia and so on. Just that's my question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, for me, that's the ideal world, right? That's the goal, is to, music therapy is still relatively kind of a new, or at least a lot of people are just now becoming familiar with it. In fact, as a practice, it really kind of emerged after World War II, working with soldiers that what they used to call shell shock, or right, or battle fatigue, or so that's when the field kind of took off. So it's still kind of a burgeoning professional field, and there's a lot of kind of education and advocacy to do even within the health profession. So yeah, it might be something to ask about and to kind of start spreading the word about. And I think the more health professionals or clinics are asked about it, maybe the more they'll kind of look into to adding that as a component of their team. But I think ideally, when music therapists can work as part of a multidisciplinary team, like you said, with physical therapists or occupational speech therapists and other clinicians, and weaving music therapy in to kind of address unmet needs, or to use music therapy as a way to implement maybe treatments or treatment plans that are already underway. If you've got a list of exercises that you're working on at home, or what have you, music or music therapy can take those existing treatments and kind of add to them and complement them and help make them more doable. And like that one study showed, I mean, just kind of the motivational factor of adding music into some of these things might be really helpful. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, and I'm glad you said that too, TJ. So I am a speech therapist kind of by trade, and actually one of the one of the girls in my cohort actually, I think, completed her postgraduate year, and then she actually went into music therapy for exactly that reason, because she was saying, like, I don't get the motivation with some of the speech, it's great, but then she went into music therapy and she's like, oh, you just see a change in the motivation, and I just love that. I think that's such a huge piece, because everybody loves music of some sort, and that's such a beautiful piece. So I love that.
Yeah.
One of the other questions I had for you too was kind of twofold. So first, I'm wondering, is it typically kind of a one-on-one process? Do you ever do kind of group therapy? And then is it always in person, or do you do virtual? Kind of what does that look like too?
Great questions. And I should have mentioned that. Yeah, it can be one-on-one individual sessions or group. In fact, a common music therapy practice with people living with Parkinson's are Parkinson's choirs, oftentimes led by a music therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of group musicking or group singing can be, can be really beneficial. I know in a lot of mental health settings, inpatient mental health clinics, rehab facilities, etc., group music therapy is common. So yeah, it can be group or individual, depending on the needs of the clients. And I forgot your second question. What was it?
Virtual or in person?
Oh, virtual,
or
yeah.
Or kind of what do you prefer to do?
I prefer in person is always great, but of course, in the pandemic, like with a lot of professions and therapies, music therapists became really good at doing what we call telehealth. So yeah, so doing sessions over Zoom is always an option and can be really powerful. I shouldn't say, so comparing in person with virtual, maybe I shouldn't. It's apples to oranges. It's not the same. But yes. The short answer is I think most music therapists will do virtual visits as well.
Awesome. I don't want to take away the spotlight. Does anybody else have any other questions for TJ?
Well, Kat, you have my info, so if anyone didn't catch it on the screen, feel free to pass that along to anyone that wants to get in touch.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would appreciate your information. I have a friend who came yesterday with her husband, and he has frontal temporal dementia with aphasia, and he loves music. He was in a band. I forget, 5 notes and a miss. And he played sax. He can't do that anymore. And it's so frustrating, but he does listen to the radio. And she was very interested in your program. And I can tell over the past year and a half, he's lost a lot. And I don't know if how this is going, but do you know, is he going to lose everything, that he cannot reach his musical roots as the disease progresses?
Well, I'm not a physician. I mean, I guess we can say that it's going to be different for every individual, even though there typically is a trajectory that might be kind of mappable for folks. But I can say that music is one of the things that lasts the longest.
Okay.
Right.
And may help him stay on track longer.
Yes. Yes. Music. Right. Music therapy, just like we saw with those ALS and music therapy studies, it can not only help maintain and slow decline, even with cognition, but there's been evidence to show gains. So coming back, not just kind of maintaining or slowing the decline.
Okay.
And I personally have seen, I mean, even people with fairly advanced dementia can, for example, learn new songs. And it can be really amazing just to be part of.
Okay, well, that's encouraging. I also want to tell you, I had an uncle who had muscular dystrophy, and his daughter and grandson and myself were there, and we sang. I don't know why we chose the song, but we sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and we left him kind of in peace, and he was trying to sing with us. He was very far along, and he died about 20 minutes later.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'd like to think that we helped him let go and go in peace, I hope.
That's so lovely,
Thanks for
Sherry.
sharing that story. That's great. That's terrific. Yeah.
Mhm.